Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello and welcome to Corporate Communication. My name is Sami Al Battashi, and today we are going to talk about media relations. So, in our lecture for today, we will try to cover three key elements. So, we will begin with the relationship between media persons and public relations practitioners, and we will talk about this relationship in depth. Then we will move on to talk about the pressures on both groups, media persons and public relation practitioners, and the importance of understanding these pressures in order for the relationship to move forward. Finally, we will talk about the significance or the influence of new media and social media on this relationship. And we will talk, of course, about the reputation of the companies or both the media and public relations industry. So let's begin with the first point. Here we talk about how public relations is viewed by many organizations across the entire globe. So they basically have that mentality or thinking that public relations is all about publishing stories or getting a story in a newspaper or even in any publication. But in fact, that's not all what we do in BR. So many organizations tend to think that public relations specialists do mainly getting stories into the media. Here they are talking about only what we do in the basic or the what we call technical level. So these are basics. But if we talk about high level or senior level, of course, public relations practitioners, most of the time they will deal with or they will be engaged in dealing with decision-making process, consulting, and providing feedbacks, as well as recommendations for the top management. So they are very, very important for some organizations. This basically depends on the mentality or the thinking of the organization towards PR. Unfortunately, most of the time, many companies judge the success or failure of the PR department by how much coverage has appeared in the local newspapers or on television, rather than the effectiveness of a whole campaign. Now, again, this is very bad and problematic. Media relations, it's only one part of public relations. We in BR, of course, we are dealing with variety of publics, including, of course, both internal and external publics. So media relations is only one type of relations that we have in BR. For those companies, of course, they have no idea about the complex relationship between the media and PR. So that's why they tend to have that mentality. Again, we said that there is a complex relationship between the media or journalists and public relation practitioners. So some journalists tend to think that PR or public relation practitioners are spin doctors and they are trying to mislead or deceive both the media and the public, which is not true. On the other hand, public relation practitioners, some of them tend to believe that media or journalists are being untruthful. They're trying to steal their content and product and just put it out there in the media without recognizing their efforts, which is again very, very bad. As a reaction, public relation people do exercise their power in other ways. So, for example, they tend to control the access to information or stories. So they will be very selective about whom to give access to information or to exclusives. They will have the power to ban journalists who they think they are unfair. So these unfair journalists will be excluded from this valuable information. Now, some people say that this push-pull relationship is quite healthy because it can keep both sides honest. But others say that this is very, very bad for both because these can lead to the loss of credibility and reputation of both industries, the media and public relations. So today we are going to talk about this relationship in some depth, and we will talk about why it's important. And we are going also to talk about the impact of changing face of the news media. We'll talk about the role of the internet and social media in particular in changing or influencing this relationship. Moving on to mutual dependency. Again, if you recall what you have studied in public relations communication course, we said that there is a symbiotic relationship between media persons and public relations practitioners. So journalists consider public relations practitioners as invaluable source for their news stories. On the other side, BROs or public relation practitioners establish and maintain relationships with the media persons with the aim of achieving or gaining free publicity. So that's their ultimate goal or objective. Professor Annie best summarized this relationship. So she says that the press cannot do its job without PR, and PR needs the press. Journalists and public relations people have always had an ambivalent relationship. So simply put, there is mutual dependence, but also mutual caution, and that doesn't lead to a trusting atmosphere. She even went further to say that the media think that PR people don't tell the whole truth. So basically they are saying that PROs or public relation practitioners are trying to spin the story, and they are trying to seek or even secure positive coverage for their client or organization. On the other hand, public relations people or PR practitioners feel that the press always treats them with suspicion, which is very bad. So they are saying that their efforts are not being recognized by journalists, and sometimes tend to copy and paste the whole press release or media release without recognizing the efforts made by the PRO. This is very disappointing for those who are working in the PR industry. Sometimes public relations people provide some exclusive or even secret information for the journalist, so that will be off the record. But again, this agreement will be broken by some journalists. So again, this will be very bad for PRO, because the story will be twisted and of course used against public relation people. So that's why we are studying this relationship, and we are trying here to understand the pressures both sides face, and this will help us of course to understand the problem. So let's look at media viewpoint. Media persons believe that around 30% of all PR effort is devoted to reputation management. So reputation management is a key in PR, and they also believe that 70% of PR is devoted to marketing public relations. So they are trying to promote their industry. This is known as marcoms. They do it in two different ways, either by using straightforward media relations, including pitching press releases or media releases, and requesting journalists to write about their product or organization or client, or by using product placement. So they will hold competitions or prizes through the media, and sometimes even they will invite the media to test their product or try out their product and write a story about it. So they will provide what we call testimonial. There are plenty techniques used in marketing PR, including press conferences, interviews, gifts, trips away for journalists, free giveaways, launches, and so on. So all these techniques are used to grab the attention of the journalist. Now, all of these techniques are again putting pressure on the journalist. Journalists believe that there is no interest in the story, or their readers have nothing to do with this product or even the company. So they are facing difficulty incorporating or even covering the story or the client in their publication. Furthermore, the journalist problem is intensified or worsened by significant changes in their own industry. We know that in the media or in journalism, media outlets are moving online. So they are starting their social media platforms, their websites, blogs, and so on. Now, this again is pushing journalists further. Back then, a journalist was expected to either to write, edit, or even publish and design the publication. But now, the picture has changed. You as a journalist, you are expected to be equipped with a set of skills, including writing, editing, designing, shooting, and so on. So you have to have a set of skills if you want to work in journalism today or even in future. And of course, dealing with social media platforms is one of the skills that will be very important for those who will apply to work in journalism. Last but not least, the salary that a journalist receives is far lower than the salaries of those who are working in the PR industry. And again, this is a very significant source of disappointment or even resentment. Now, let's move on to look at how public relations practitioners or those who are working in the PR view or see the media. Public relations practitioners also feel that their clients or employers don't give them the full access to their data or database. So they will try to hide something from the PR agency or the public relations practitioners. So here again, this is a very important point for journalists to understand. They should understand that public relations practitioners have no full access to the data or the client. Again, depending on the client or the employer, some employers or clients tend to give full access to the PR agency or the public relations practitioners. But sometimes some companies tend to be reluctant or unwilling to provide or give full access to the PR practitioners. We in PR, we are not trying to hide something. We are trying to provide the truth and the information that we got from the client. Public relations practitioners also feel that the press are ready to pounce on negative stories. And again, this is very simple. We know that negativity sells, so journalists are looking for scandals, crimes, briberies, and all this stuff. Public relations practitioners also know that the media will be very attracted to a celebrity or a personality with fame and popularity. And of course, they will rush around and want pictures and stories for their newspapers. Journalists should understand why these tactics, like the use of press visits, gifts, and so on, are used to grab or hook their attention. Again, we know that prominence is one of the news elements that you have studied in intro to journalism. So when you have someone with power and influence or popularity, of course, the media will be attracted, your story will be covered, and so on. Furthermore, public relations practitioners would also like journalists to recognize the work that they are putting in serving the society by opening up the channels of communication between an organization or client and the media. So basically here we have two-way communication, which is again what we do encourage in PR. Very, very healthy type of communication, and all PR agencies and companies as well should follow or adapt this type of communication. PR consultants would like also some recognition that they are very useful and they are also very important for stories or newspapers. And sometimes they even tend to organize or conduct interviews with opinion leaders for a journalist. Their efforts should be recognized. Yet, there are few number of PR practitioners who tend to indulge themselves in such unethical practices. And of course, by the end of the day, they will be fired, their membership will be cancelled, and of course, penalties will be imposed on them. So again, the media should avoid generalization or stereotypes. They cannot generalize that single act or incident to the whole industry. This is a very problematic thing to do. In short, pressures and anxieties on both sides should be recognized, and they should be, of course, considered by both sides, the media and public relations practitioners. Okay, so the polarization of the media. Now here we are basically talking about the influence of public relations on the media, or how much influence does PR has on the media. Now there are lots of studies or research showing that 50% of news appearing on the media are actually influenced directly by PR people. So they are basically, these percentage are actually coming from public relations. Two studies saying that 80% of what appears in the business pages are coming from PR, and almost half of general news are written by public relations practitioners. A recent study from Cardiff University says that 60% of press articles and 34% of broadcast stories come wholly or mainly from PR or news agency sources. So again, here, as you can see, PR plays a significant role in the creation or even the writing process of news. Now, whatever the figures, there is no doubt that journalism relies heavily on PR material and PR relies heavily on journalists. So as we said before, there is a symbiotic relationship. Both rely on each other in doing their functions or even task. Even though that PR has a significant role in journalism, still journalists indulge in the easy sport of PR bashing, and there is little the PR industry can do about it. Again, this scenario or this situation is very, very bad, and it does no good for both. And of course, this can lead to loss of credibility, which is very, very bad for both industries. Readers, when they see this situation happening and unfolding, of course, they will lose the interest in reading stories. So the credibility element will be lost. Neville better underscores this situation, saying that if PR and journalism are nothing more than channels or conduits which distort and manipulate the original message, they will become irrelevant to the people out there, the so-called audiences or publics. So again, both the media and the PR practitioners should bear this in mind when they come and do their job. So now let's move on to talk about the decline of old media, or what we call traditional media. We know that the traditional media or the mainstream media has declined for different reasons. And one of the main reasons for this decline is, of course, the advancements of technology. And here we are talking basically about the internet. We can fairly say that the internet has reshaped journalism. So nowadays we have people acting as citizen journalists. So we have the term citizen journalism, which basically means ordinary people with their own cameras or smartphones, they can capture a story by taking photos or shooting a short video and then go online and post this video or content on their social media accounts. So they are becoming citizen journalists. So they have the power to bypass media filter. And again, it could be very, very good, but also sometimes it has its own drawbacks, including, for example, the dissemination of false or fake news. Now, back then, the public never had the chance of seeing or hearing the actual speech for themselves of a president or a minister. So their understanding was filtered through the reporter's own perspective or bias. So as I said, with the technology, now we can bypass the media filter. So we can see the real action or the real event. We should keep in mind that media or different media outlets have different agenda. So they are supporting different political parties. So for example, we know that newspapers, including The Sun or the Daily Mirror, of course, they are supporting their own political parties. So their coverage will be very, very positive and in favor of a particular political party. Another good example would be to take CNN and Fox News. CNN coverage is negative when it comes to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And on the other side, we have Fox News with a positive coverage. So since you are moving online, you need to manage your reputation or image. So here we have a growing area in PR called online reputation management. Here you can use a number of tricks or hacks which are very, very simple to understand what the public are saying about you or the media is saying about you as a person or even as a company. So you can simply use inverted commas or tab your company or person by using the inverted commas and see what comes up. So this can provide you with plenty of information and details available online about that person or even a company. You can see the power of the internet. You can also search for Google's list of allegedly unethical companies before you even start cooperating or even working in collaboration with A or X company. So this is very important. It's very easy. It's only one click away. You can do it simply, and it can save your reputation and image from being destroyed or damaged. Now, you should ask yourself, so the information that you got, does it matter? Or what can you do about it? Now, yes, it does matter when you have something written about your company or you personally online, because this information is shared and accessible to all. So here, your reputation, if something is said or if something bad said online about you, you will suffer the consequences. So your reputation can be damaged, your image can be damaged, and of course, your company can lose its sales and profit. Okay, now, despite the fact that public relations practitioners have the power to write their stories or to disseminate their communication directly to the public or the audiences by using the internet, but still, journalists still control the media. So they are very, very important source for credible information or even communication. So we know that journalists as third party, they are more credible than when we have public relations practitioners saying or even communicating their message. So this is what we call in PR a third party endorsement. They are more credible than having the organization saying or even communicating directly about its own operations to the public. So there should be a dialogue between both the media and public relations industry, and both groups should recognize and acknowledge the importance of both if they are to survive. Both of them need to understand and respect each other's roles as well and not attempt to be controlling or dominating the conversation or the dialogue. Last but not least, it's fair to say that both media persons and public relations practitioners should have a serious discussion and engagement. They should try to understand their role in society, and of course They should understand that they have mutual responsibility towards the society, and they should consider honesty and integrity. So, in summary, our lecture for today covered three key elements, and we discussed the relationship between the media and the public relations practitioners. And we said that this relationship is very, very important, but yet challenging. We said that new media, especially social media platforms, bring many other pressures with them. So they basically have both the positives and negatives. And we highlighted the element of control over the content. The loss of reputation will be possible. So you have to have a better understanding of how to manage your reputation online, or how to manage your online reputation. Finally, we can say that PR people and the press need to understand each other. They should engage themselves in dialogue, healthy communication, and they have to understand that they should work together in serving the community or the society. That's all what we have for week 7. Thanks for listening.